from the great state of Arkansas. Senator Cotton, good morning. I was going to give you some trouble about your Arkansas football team, but I can't use fire analogies because this is a very perilous situation, actually, in the Santa Ana winds blowing in Ventura County this morning.
Yeah, Hugh, good morning. It's good to be on with you as well. Obviously, anytime you have an incident like this, you're thinking about everyone involved and praying for their safety and for the safety and skill of those who are responding to it.
Let me begin by asking you about Peter Strozak. You are a Harvard Law School trained lawyer. I'm Michigan, so I'll know a little bit more about this than you. We actually cover the law there. And the fruit of the poison tree doctrine is if evidence is illegally obtained, it cannot be used to convict. I am now worried that Mr. Strozak, who's been removed from this investigation by Mr. Mueller, interviewed Michael Flynn, Hillary Clinton, Cheryl Mills, and Huma Abedin, and is obviously apparently biased enough that Mueller would remove him from the investigation. Doesn't that call everything that investigator did or put in motion into question?
Well, Hugh, at this point, we only have media allegations about Mr. Strozak. Obviously, Director Mueller must have had some concerns about him when he removed him from the team and demoted him. But I think it's very important that the Congress get to the bottom of what happened. You know, those media allegations are serious. They suggest that Mr. Strozak was having an extramarital affair with a front office lawyer at the FBI, which itself raises serious questions about judgment in the counterintelligence world, given that's a key point of potential blackmail, as well that he influenced Jim Comey's public statements about the Hillary Clinton investigation while part of that investigation, and then was responsible for interviewing Michael Flynn. Again, those are only media allegations. Most of them are not sourced, so I don't think we can credit them entirely, but I do think that they are serious enough to warrant some kind of review by the Congress to see exactly what happened and get to the bottom of it, to make sure that no one on either side of the aisle in the executive branch or in any campaign was treated unfairly.
Now, in my Washington Post column this morning, I make a very careful distinction between those allegations and what we know. We don't know much. We only know these allegations are out there. But the text could be released, the incriminatory text that led to Mueller's replacement. Because if it could be on the spectrum from a bad joke about Donald Trump's hair, which would not be in any way convicting of bias, to something that was out and out shocking to the conscience and therefore would call the investigation into question. Do you think the public has a right to see those texts, Senator Cotton?
Probably so, Hugh. I think, given the level of media leaks, many of which probably come inside the Department of Justice, as well as given the fact that Director Mueller removed him from the team, suggesting that there is something to these allegations, I think the public, certainly the Congress, deserves to know more about the content of those text messages with Mr. Strozak's mistress inside the FBI, and it may be time to consider releasing the notes or, if a transcript exists, the transcript of his interview with Michael Flynn in late January. So much of that has already purportedly leaked already. It's hard to imagine what there is left that shouldn't be put in the public record. But I do think, again, that more scrutiny and more public review of this matter is warranted, given the very vital issues at stake.
I would not be surprised if General Flynn seeks to revoke his plea agreement. I really wouldn't. So we'll wait and see about that. Let me ask you about the conference committee, Senator Cotton. I know it's not your committee, but I was just talking to Jim Inhofe about that. The Hewitt Amendment is on the table, and hopefully it will raise the billions needed to bridge the gap. But I'm concerned about speed. The House committee's ready to go. The Senate hasn't named its conferees yet. When do you expect this bill to move?
The Hewitt Amendment, that's just what we need in American politics. It'll last for years and years and years.
Yep.
In the Senate, things move more slowly than they do in the House. The Democrats, once again, are dragging their feet to allow us to vote formally to appoint members of a conference committee to start negotiating. I do expect that'll happen, if not today, then tomorrow. And then those conference committee members will be appointed by Senator McConnell. But you can be assured, Hugh, that for months now, our Senate leadership and our Senate Finance Committee has worked closely with their counterparts in the House to try to minimize the differences in this legislation and therefore, narrow the scope of those negotiations. And that continues now since we passed our bill Friday night last week. So there is work being done now, and I do agree that we need to move quickly. There are differences here, obviously, in these bills, but the differences aren't massive, and some of the final changes we made did move the Senate bill in the direction of the House bill, for instance, allowing a $10,000 annual deduction for state and local property taxes, which would have been a big sticking point had the Senate not taken that position. So I think we'll get all these differences resolved sooner rather than later, and I think we'll put a tax cut bill on the President's desk this month.
I hope it's next week. We need to restore the business interest deduction. We need to fix the graduate student problem. They need revenue. They need the Hewitt Amendment, Senator Cotton, and I'm telling you, it's a good one. I hope you go and study that, and I also hope that the wounds inflicted by another psychological trauma of an Arkansas football season are not lasting. You're probably part of the SEC cover-up. Will you be holding hearings on the screw job that was given to Ohio State, Wisconsin, and USC in the CFP playoff?
Well, usually when Congress wades into these sporting events, nothing good's happened. So I'll just be watching for good games and rooting for an exciting finish to a good college football season.
That can't happen because it's been completely taken off the rails by the CFP. Senator Cotton, always good to talk to you. Don't go anywhere, America.